So last time we talked about a memory palace and how you might use it. This time we're actually going to put that into practice. So this order should be fairly universal, but the layout of your memory palace is going to be different than mine because all houses are different. Okay, so we're going to do this to remember the characteristics that all living things share. That is order, response to stimuli, reproduction, adaptation, homeostasis, growth and development, energy processing, and evolution. My memory palace was successful just now. So imagine you're standing on the front porch and you see a bunch of shoes that are perfectly organized. This represents order. Okay, all life is ordered characteristics. If you want, you could put little animals in them or something like that. It's up to you. Okay, so order. I remember it. I've remembered this because I'm thinking about the first stage of my memory palace, the front porch, shoes that are ordered. I walk into the living room and I look at the windowsill and I see plants growing toward the sun. By the way, my house has neither of these things. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. The important thing is to have the memory palace and then place objects in it. Okay. So I walk into my living room and I see plants growing toward the sun. This represents response to stimuli. Okay. The ability of those plants to change direction and grow towards the sun, that is the second characteristic of living things, response to stimuli. I go into the shelf that's in my living room and I see pictures of my younger family members. Okay. This represents reproduction. I see them as little babies. Okay. The ability of living things to produce offspring, to reproduce. The next thing I do is I continue on to my kitchen and I look out the window and I see a polar bear out there. And it's Modesto, so he's dying because he's not well adapted to the environment here. This is the next characteristic of life, adaptation. So I continue on toward my room through the house. And I see a thermostat on the wall. What's the thermostat for? Well, it's to regulate the temperature of the house. It's to maintain the homeostasis or internal condition of the house. Homeostasis is the next characteristic of life. And I keep going and I find a child's growth chart. Again, this is not going to be in my house, but you can imagine when I was a kid, I had a growth chart in my kitchen. Okay, so I keep going and I see a child's growth chart. Okay, this is growth and development. Okay. Organisms can grow just like a kid would get bigger and bigger, taller and taller. I leave my room and I go back into the kitchen and I see a bunch of pots and pans and maybe the stove is on, and this is energy. Okay, this represents energy processing. Okay. So then I walk out the back door of my house and I find a giant fossil there because this represents evolution. This shows that things can evolve. Okay, so let's go through this just one more time. I'm on my front porch and I see shoes, perfectly ordered shoes, maybe with little animals or something in them. Okay, this means that life is ordered. This is the first characteristic of life. It's very highly ordered. Then I walk in and what did I see? I think I looked at the windowsill and I saw plants growing towards the sun. Organisms can respond to stimuli. This is the next characteristic of life. And then I saw the pictures of my younger relatives as little babies. Okay, organisms, living things, reproduce. Then I walked, and I'm sitting in my memory palace figuratively and literally, but then I walked over and I looked out the window and there was a polar bear in the backyard who was just breathing hard and panting, and this is because he's not well adapted to Modesto. Adaptation is the next characteristic of life. Then I kept going back toward my room and I saw a thermostat on the wall, and the thermostat is to regulate the homeostasis of the house. Okay, living organisms can regulate their homeostasis. And then I saw this fictional child's growth chart because organisms grow and develop. And then what did I see? I saw pots and pans in the kitchen, energy processing. You might think of a better example, and you can always change what you see in each area, but I saw energy processing, those flames coming out. That's energy. Organisms, living organisms, use energy. Then as I walked out the backyard, I saw a big fossil sitting there. And that's different than what we have now. So organisms evolve. This is maybe seems like a bit of a silly group of examples, but this will, if you use this technique, if you put a little practice into it, this will help you to be able to remember.